Here, guys, I'm cutting in before the intro here. Look at this guy. So I've decided I want to play mech, right? So I get on this character. I'm going to be in Eternity's Garden. This character hasn't been to Eternity's Garden yet. So I just find in LFG just anyone to join on their squad and then TP to a friend. And this guy's got this squad. Fishing, 99 stacks. I love fishing. And look, he's sort of a semi-new player. 7k AP. Owley is his name. Burbmaster Owley. He has like the bird face. And he's like fishing away. Oh, it's very cute. I don't know. And I'm scared that during the intro he's going to be gone. So I'll show you him now. Also, when I TP'd to a friend over, it instantly had me sitting in the chair. I didn't realize it did that. If you TP to a friend while someone's in a skiff, it immediately has you in the boat. Anyway, yeah, it's time to yearn. Are you yearning? I've been yearning. I yearn so hard.
You yearn for horizons unexplored, for fellowship and purpose, for a cause worth dying for. To you, we can promise magic.
Hello! And welcome everybody to another episode of Guild Wars 3 Daily. Immediately in chat there, Rob Arbardi says, I have a meeting in 2 hours. Let's see if it will be enough to watch the full stream. It will be. As you guys know, I went to bed very sleepy last night, but I didn't sleep well at all. I'm knackered. I'm exhausted. I promise, for once, we're actually going to do a short episode here today. We're going to do about an hour. And I do apologise. And I know what some of you are doing with the VOD right now. I know what you're doing. You're mousing around the track bar. And you're saying, oh, did he really make it an hour? And I did, didn't I? I made it an hour. Easily. Alright, so you can trust me when I tell you this is going to be a nice short episode. I only have a few screenshots to go through. Let's see, let's count them up. I have 20, which to be fair is double what we've done in the past. But a lot of them are just images. So don't you guys worry about that. I was scrabbling to see what we could do for a topic for sort of a mini episode. I'm taking it easy. We're just doing a bit of Q&A. I have to say just straight away, you guys dropped a lot of stories about times you've all been robbed. And I kind of wish I could platform them all, but I really can't justify that as a part of Guild Wars 3 Daily. It's got nothing to do with Guild Wars 3. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who gave me that. I do have a couple of those anecdotes in there, a couple of stories. But man, it's easy to lose faith in humanity, really. The amount of negative story. It's like everyone has a story. And I suppose that's a good thing, right? Like, in terms of you've lived, you've not been utterly isolated and privileged your whole life. You've gone through some hardship. I don't know. But, this guy's just so cute. Yeah, it was, I feel like 7k AP, 6k AP. These are like the sweet spots. These are like people genuinely enjoying the game, but they're kind of new to the game and they're actually having fun with it. Like, this is exactly what I like to see people at this level. Yeah, so I don't know. There were just a lot of cool anecdotes there, and you know, I'll share a couple on screen here. We have a variety of topics. Obviously, a lot of you guys are very interested in the whole crafting debate at the moment. And I wanted to bring it back to a bit of lore. Costage sent some screenshots in some DMs, and it relates to this map actually. So I've decided, what are we going to do productive playing the game? I'm going to try to finish the heart at the start of the map. Do we actually have a way? Yeah, we do. As long as I can figure out something easy and sort of brain off to do while we discuss other topics. And hey, interacting with seer tablets and pressing the little oh no, then we have to take it somewhere. Playing the little Simon Says game. Bop it, that's what it really makes me think of. Was Bop it in all countries, or was it just a UK thing? Flick it, bop it, pull it, spin it, twist it, spin it, bop it. That game? Yeah, that was a good one. Also, I had quite a few very mean comments. And you guys know I don't like the mean comments, right? It stresses me out, alright? I had a lot of mean comments saying that my fantastic American accent yesterday was not good. I can't believe it. I thought I did a bang-up job there. I really put my heart and soul into it. I know that it's when you're a distinguished actor like myself, you can kind of ham it up, right? And people won't notice. They'll just say that that's your style. That's just the gravitas that you bring. And that's what I was bringing, a bit of gravitas with that accent. But you guys were being, you know, very mean about that. And I think that's in poor taste. And I think it also shows that you have no taste. Okay. Yeah, is it possible for me to get some questions going while I do this? I don't think it is. Look at how little fucking heart progress we've made doing this as well, by the way. We have actually managed to make some, but it feels like less than a pixel. Well, not less than a pixel. We've made a sub-pixel of progress. We've made like 1 pixel of progress there. I don't believe you can actually have a heart bar that fills up less than that. Look at that. That's unbelievable. I guess I can at least solo finish this event. And that will in some way be meaningful. Maybe. Oh, and look, we have the pop-up showing that it's an empty map. On this occasion, I'll forgive it because I joined on a guy who has 99 fishing stacks. So he's clearly been here for a while. And I mean, he's going to get kicked out in 40 minutes. Sorry, bro. This heart is a slog, is it? Is this heart a slog? I mean, I'll go back to just doing the world comp idea then, if need be. World comp was easy to just do in a chill way. Yeah, fuck it. All right, there's that idea going in the bin. All right, should we get into some Guild Wars 3 Daily? What class was I on? It was Gux, right? Gux had map comp to do. It certainly wasn't Liss, and I don't think it was my rev. Kessex Hills, yeah, this is right. Then we can run around here. So, first comment here comes in from, drum roll, who have we got? BHJZ1-1. Oh, this was just pretty cool. So these are my favorite comments, my favorite YouTube comments when people are on old videos. So this guy is looking at last year's Let's Play of Janthir Wilds. So cast your minds back. I know that we are deep in the throes of Guild Wars 2 Daily now, and it's impossible to conceive of this at this point. But there was once upon a time, guys, where we didn't know about Guild Wars 3. Can you believe it? It's really weird, but try to cast your minds back to a point where we didn't know what Arenanet was planning. We didn't know what they were making. But they knew, and they were nonetheless perhaps giving us little hints. And so here is one. In last year's Let's Play of Janthir Wilds, this is part 3, so very early in the series, frankly. BHJZ1 says, "Hey WP, I know you often read comments on older videos. I'm still making my way through your backlog of recent live streams." Oh, that's quite cool, yeah, because you do have 3 very good, like, years of LPs from just Guild Wars stuff at the moment, in terms of Secrets of the Obscure, into Janthir Wilds, into VOE. That is not a luxury we've had for many, many years of this game. 2 things I thought you'd find cool. Firstly, at 3 hours into this episode, Waiting Sorrow says this. She says, "Thousands of years ago, long before Or's prime, I was born of whispers." And UWP absolutely picked up on that being noteworthy. That this is her frame of reference for time. She's alluding to Or being significant in Coden history. And obviously we now know that they would have been working on Guild Wars 3 at this point. Certainly they'd have decided its setting already. Basically, this is just a cool thing to hear again now, and to realize that, yeah, the writers were setting up Coden in Or throughout this whole mini-X-Pack. And of course there were quite a few other ways they were doing this than just this one line from Waiting Sorrow, but still. And secondly, a few minutes later, at 3 hours 20 minutes, 17 minutes, I liked hearing your thoughts about what's behind the name for Project Tyria would be. And yeah, again, you hit the nail on the head. The dollar is king, so Guild Wars 3 it is. Did I say that? I don't remember that second discussion. I do remember that thing with Waiting Sorrow. And yeah, it did sound pretty important that she thought of Or as like a big thing, like talking about her own history. Because shouldn't it be something out in the Arctic or the far north? Or around Janthir, maybe, you know? And it was interesting to hear her mention Or. The thing is, last summer, then, in that same expansion, we did hear, as you just alluded to, we heard this this idea of a great conflict between the Polar Coden and the Lowland Coden who had been to Or. And it was interesting. Arenanet were, in both instances, setting up Guild Wars 3, but in a weird way, it kind of made me forget about the Waiting Sorrow bit. But, and you know, I like this stuff, but I will mention again, and you know, I've said it over and over, it's because I still believe it. It is a bit weird that Waiting Sorrow is a character right there, right now, in the story, and I can't just go and ask her and talk to her about this stuff. I mean, I get it. Gux doesn't know anything about Guild Wars 3. He doesn't realize he's in a simulation, right? He doesn't know these are just MMOs. So he's obviously not going to ask for those sort of exegetic reasons that I'm currently talking about. But nonetheless, he would be invested in her history and knowing more about her and pursuing more answers about the heart of the obscure and stuff, right? You know, and we've had not just one opportunity, but we've had opportunities for 2 years, 9 months now, being around Waiting Sorrow to ask these questions. Or not even just ask her, ask people that she's now close with. And we don't get to do that. I mean, what is Rising Dawn doing right now? Is she off on a big adventure? If Arenanet have established that, then fair play. I'll shut up. But, you know, I'd never like little moments like that. But yeah, it's fun. I think that's a cool moment to go back to. I do very much believe in doing a big replay running into Guild Wars 3. I think that the core story would be interesting because you're actually at Or and you'd see possibly some interesting stuff in the personal story, right? Possibly. I don't think Season 1 really has any interest to you. As a Guild Wars 3 enjoyer, right? I don't think Season 1 really has much for you. I don't think Season 2 has much for you. Heart of Thorns might, if you believe the Sylvari could be an ore thing. Which I kind of have... I need to get a grip on that. I don't know whether that's just us in our little Spud community going on about that too much and we're going mental. And running away with the ball when we shouldn't be. But, you know, so maybe Heart of Thorns and Malik and all that. So HOT might have a bit for you. But then Season 3 and POF, I actually think have huge amounts for you again. With regard to Guild Wars 3. Because it's all Balthazar. The Lissa hint and all that shit, I think all of a sudden a lot... And Massart as well. And we're going... In Guild Wars 3, we're going back to a period of time where the Massart are around again, kind of. They're hiding, but, you know. I think that era is actually very, very big. Then I think it becomes very uninteresting again, unfortunately. Not for being low quality, but just... I mean, Joko might be interesting in Season 4, a little. But Icebreed Saga doesn't offer too much. I wish I could say it did, because the dwarves are there, but let's be real, that one of the big failings of the Icebreed Saga is shoehorning the dwarves in without doing anything with the subject material. Anything really good with it. EOD kind of, I feel like, is preoccupied with closing the End of Dragon stuff. And then finally, though, it gets interesting again with Secrets of the Obscure, with Janthir Wilds, with VOE. All that shit's rich again. So on balance, I reckon about 50% of what... Well, maybe not 50%. 33% of what you're going through with a full story replay is interesting with regard to Guild Wars 3. That's so funny. I just finished this entire heart in this field here. Sorry, I've had the comment on screen the entire time. When I usually find myself running into this quarry to do this heart. But yeah, going over to the live chat. Don't let me ignore you guys in the live chat. Really, don't let me do it. And we've had 2 donations here. Thank you so much, guys. First of all, we've got one from David Olsen, 5441, with the 129 Swedish kroner, I think that is. Who says, I've followed you since middle school, and I just want to help with new PC. Thank you, dude. Well, you have helped. That's amazing. Thanks so much, man. You followed me since middle school. That weirds me out, dude. What videos was I making when you were watching me in middle school? And what did you make of me? Was I like what was that you guys called me the other day? Was I like Unk? Is that what I was? I was Unk. Did we have lots of Unk moments? Well, I guess we didn't, because that's like a Gen Alpha thing, isn't it? Anyway, thank you, dude. That's very, very kind of you. And I hope to be making videos when your kids are at middle school. And you can introduce... Don't do that. I swear way too much. Have you guys noticed how much more I swear? Over the past 10 years, my swearing frequency has gone up and up and up and up and up. I'm becoming more shameless. I'm talking about things like Brexit. Don't do that. Don't do that. Anyway, thank you. That's very kind of you. And another person here, Clegos Cassius, dude, with the 30 Canadian dollars. These aren't small amounts of money, guys, and I do appreciate it. He says, thanks for the entertainment through the years. Your FFX LP is the best content on YouTube. Holy shit, that's high praise. It's well researched, it's well presented. I feel like I understand that game inside and out despite having never played it myself. Oh, that's so kind of you. I think that's a really good LP as well, but I'll tell you why. It's not just because it's a researched LP, it's because it's a balanced LP. I've done other researched LPs where I don't think I got the balance good. I think FF12 is a good example where, because I modded it to try and make it better and really show you the engine, it was too info dumpy. I don't think I got the balance right on other LPs. I think some of my most balanced LPs are the original X1. X2 was not balanced. I think it... But that's just because there's an overwhelming amount of shit to cover in that. Anyway, and I think my Grimrock coverage is very balanced. I think that was a very good one as well. I also think Zeus was pretty good. But that might be recency biased. Anyway, that's very kind of you. And if you liked that, you should know I did a follow-up Let's Play on that. I did a follow-up LP last Christmas. On a modded version of the game, the Masters mod. We had the maker of the mod in chat the whole time. It was fucking amazing. It's a sequel LP, so I don't sit there going over all the same information again. I assume that you already know it, basically. And it's kind of a retrospective, let's go back to X and see how we feel. And the mod is absolutely incredible, and I had a blast. That was really, really, really fun. It was very, very, very cool. I thoroughly recommend it. Don't miss that. It's on my channel if you liked the OG. Oh, give me 1 second here, guys. Give me a minute. Let me see. Sorry to do this. Sorry, I just had a terrifying feeling that I was recording with the window wide open, and I'm quite close. Again, there's this thing with the neighbors. I'm quite close to their garden. So I wanted to just be sure that I wasn't screaming through their garden or something. And I wasn't, so that's fine. Yeah, thank you guys. That's very kind of you. Some more regular comments that aren't from Paypigs, because everybody deserves a moment. Flyro says, I have a hunch that the Hall of Monuments 2.0 will ask you to do a full Guild Wars 2 playthrough. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's going to be that weird thing where it's not going to be a novel thing. So I don't know whether I'll do it. But I probably should. I swear more in text than in video. I do swear a lot in the Spud Discord, probably. To you, Grimrock was the best. You think you've seen both of them 3 to 4 times? I'll tell you, I'll give you a weird little anecdote with Grimrock. I was really, really nervous about recording Grimrock. I hadn't done a Let's Play for a long time. Like my early LPs, I'd done like Bioshock and all those. I'd done a lot. But then I went on like a gap. And to be honest, it wasn't a very long gap in retrospect. But I was really nervous about Grimrock. And I was in my early 20s, I guess. I don't know. I'll tell you, this is really shameful. Don't do this. Don't do this. But literally to calm my nerves, this is how nervous I was. For episode 1 of Grimrock 1, I specifically had a beer before I recorded that episode. just because I thought, you know, what do they call it? Liquid courage or whatever. I had a beer. That sounds so bad, doesn't it? That sounds like I'm an alcoholic or something. Promise, the one thing, and then I was fine, and then it was, you know. And I don't think you can, it's not like I was sitting there drunk slurring or some shit. But yeah, I did actually drink a beer before that episode. I was so nervous about it. I might have mentioned that in the show. Did I mention that at some point? And then Grimrock 2 was just a great game. Grimrock's a really interesting thing. You know, in this show, in Guild Wars 3 Daily, we talk a lot about the idea of massive studios, lots of people, too many chefs in the cooks in the kitchen, the product gets a bit diluted, the art goes away. Isn't it much better to have small teams, small studios with very clear ideas and very, you know, high focus in the art that they execute? And I believe in all of that. And when I look at Grimrock, I think that's a beautiful success story and a great example of that. We want to be a pig, don't we? And then truffle for all these things. But, you know, there's a downside to that. The Grimrock guys, they were like 4 devs that made that. And, you know, like they emailed me, by the way. I only realized I got this email way after the fact. But I got after I did the Grimrock 1 series, I got a personal email from them asking if I wanted a key for Grimrock 2 because they wanted me to play it and they wanted me to make a Let's Play on it. And I know what you guys are thinking, yeah, that's just fucking what content creators get and do. But at the time, that was not so standard. And there were literally only a few devs that made that. And it was because they'd seen my LP and they liked my LP and they wanted me to do another one. I thought that was really, really cool. So this was a very personal, like, cool little group of guys, right? Anyway, that just sounds like I'm humble bragging. The anecdote I'm trying to get to is that they never made a Grimrock 3. Why didn't they make a Grimrock 3? And the answer is that they didn't really like working with each other, I guess. I don't know. They never said... as far as I remember, they effectively said as much on their blog posts, right? They likened themselves to being like a band, right? They said, we're just some guys. We're kind of like a band. Bands make music. We're a bunch of guys, a bunch of nerds. We made some games. And similar to how a lot of bands, you know, members flit around into different groups, that's what we're doing. And some of them split off to make that other game, Druidstone. And then they just never reunited. Now, looking between the lines there, that kind of, to me, says they didn't have fun making Grimrock 2 anymore. I mean, they made an incredible product, but you know the chemistry wasn't there or something, and that's an interesting risk. I suppose there's risks of chemistry and stuff even in big companies as well, though, right? Even Arenanet making Guild Wars 3 are going to have to struggle with that, right? They're going to have to be people that, again, pull in the same direction as one another. And you don't necessarily I guess what I'm trying to say is Grimrock's a good example of how you don't necessarily automatically all pull in the same direction just because you're a small studio. In fact, it might kill your studio if you don't. And that seems to be of what happened there with Grimrock 3. I know they did also have more tangible arguments, by the way. They had a very tangible argument, which was, look, if we want to do a third one, people are going to expect an escalation of quality, of scale, of buildcraft, of whatever. They're going to expect more enemies, or more elaborate set pieces, or more... a bigger open world, or better graphics. They will expect a step forward somewhere. And we are not in a place to deliver that step forward. We were barely in a place to deliver this. And we don't think it will be good enough to deliver the same thing again. So we're not doing it. That was one of their other big arguments. And far be it from me to ignore that. It's so weird getting all these hero challenges and stuff like instantly. Anyway, this is all pretty tangential. Shall we get over to another GW2 question? Let's see. There you go. That's question 1 out of 20. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's been 26 minutes. I'm going to do a shorter episode. Molla de Mollod. Molla de Mollod. That's a great name. That really rolls off your tongue, doesn't it? Molla de Mollod. So, WP, have you checked your CPU temperatures? Maybe it's time to clean your CPU cooler. I'm actually a bit scared of this PC. So, this PC that you're looking at right now is a state-of-the-art, brilliant, genuinely really great PC that we crowdfunded about half a decade ago during Dragon Bash and has been really good. And I remember it performing better than the PC I had before that. So it blows my mind that the performance isn't very good. But what we bought with this was a water cooler, and it's the first time I've ever had a water cooler. And it looks really clean and cool and nice, and there's more space in there and stuff. But I do get a bit nervous, like, as I move the PC around, and it's been through a lot of moves, okay? As you guys probably know, it's been through a lot of moves. Like, I hear the liquid in there sloshing and stuff, and I get very nervous. It gives me real anxiety, the fact that I went with that. And, you know, you hear people talking about how the loops split and stuff. I mean, how many years before I really have to look into maintaining it? With regular coolers and, you know, just putting a giant block of metal on there, basically, and stitching some fans on, I'm fine with that, and I would regularly take them off, and I would clean the dust off and stuff. As far as I know, there's not really much to clean on this one, but I'm sort of nervous to touch it. That's what I'm trying to get around to. Anyway, all that said, I have checked the CPU temperatures, and they're okay-ish. I don't know, a big part of me really does think it could be soot damage. Probably is soot damage. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for the advice. Just a little thought there. Generalistify says about the topic of subscription. So yeah, this is kind of one of our other big main topics. I think tomorrow, guys, I might finally do the microtransaction video. My thoughts on it. I might do it in the form of a tier list. I don't know. That might be a fun way of handling it. I might do it in the form of a tier list. Do you know what I hate? What I hate is what I just did in-game. I just went through the hidden tunnel into the amazing hidden room underneath this hill filled with NPCs and interesting set dressing. I dinged the POI and now I'm instantly leaving. And I hate that the game conditions you to play Guild Wars 2 that way. And watch, this other guy's going to do the same fucking thing. Look, he didn't do the same thing. He actually went over and spoke to the NPC for a second. And he has high mastery score. And he PvPs. And he's actually enjoying the room. Alright, I take it back. I take it back. Well, I don't take it back because I just did it. Anyway, about the topic of subscription, I think that Guild Wars 2... I think Guild Wars 2 would benefit from an expansion sub. Well, be careful. You might be poking the beehive here. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is you pay for the monthly access to all the expansions for a low fee, like $3 every month, so you can access to all the content without needing to buy every expansion. I think this is something that Arenanet can do right now, and I think it can be really popular. I took this idea from Paradox subscription model for his strategy games. Interesting. This comment didn't go where I thought it was going to go, but I think it's gone to an interesting place. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, the Paradox business model is they'll release like a grand strategy or something, and then they'll do like... Currently, they do season passes. So at the start of the year, you can spend £40, right? And what that means, if you spend that £40, is you get all their DLCs for the entire year. And ultimately, they're all bundled together, and you get it cheaper than if you'd bought them separately. So you spend 40 quid at the start of the year, and you immediately like unlock a new race or a new alien in Stellaris or something, right? Immediately, you get something. And then in March, they're going to release a big expansion. And you get that straight away for free. It would have cost everyone else 20, 30 quid to buy it, right? But you get it. And then in late summer, they do like a smaller story expansion, and you get that straight away. And other people would have to pay like 20 quid. And then at the end of the year, they do a final, mini patch, which, might be like a storyline or a mechanical new feature or something. And most people would pay like a tenner for it. But again, you get it bundled in. So by committing to it early in the year, you get it all overall cheaper. But you as a consumer, the risk you take is you don't know what quality all those DLCs will be. The DLCs might suck or whatever. Anyway, so they do that year on. But what that means, right, is imagine that like 6 years have passed with that, right? Paradox are committed to doing a lot of DLCs, annual expansions, annual updates, more. And so when you look at a game like Stellaris, which is the one that I'm most familiar with, as a new player, if you're at your PCs right now, guys, and you've got Steam open, it's the Steam Summer Sale, so you may as well go have a little look at the Steam store. There's some big discounts out there at the moment. I was thinking of getting, what was I thinking again? Mass Effect Andromeda is like £2 or something. It's something ridiculously cheap. And I just burned out of a Mass Effect playthrough. Anyway, if you're on Steam at the moment, you search up Stellaris. As a new player, it kind of blows your mind. It's a bit like The Sims, right? After EA shoveled all of that DLC into. People don't see the base price for the base game. They see the aggregate price for all of the DLCs at once, and they throw a fucking fit. They will see that the entire package costs like £250. And they'll do this thing where they get really angry about that, and they immediately review bomb the game, or games, and they get very angry about the Paradox business model, and they say, this is an outrage, you shouldn't have to spend that much money. And when you do spend that much money, you're not getting the quality that you'd expect, right? No video game justifies that price tag. And so that's kind of where the community is with it. To be honest, I have to say, guys, and far be it for me to poke the beehive, I kind of think people are really unfair about that, and they're unfair about Paradox. I think that's on you as a foolish consumer to look at the £200 price tag and assume that the game has to be bad without it. My view on it is, well, look, base Stellaris all on its own without the DLCs is a worthy experience, right? Just because Paradox in later years added a bunch of other stuff onto the end, it doesn't mean that you have to buy all the other stuff that they've built onto the other end. The base game all on its own is a valid and justifiable £20 experience. Now, and just buying one or two DLCs. So it's, you pay the amount you want to pay. Don't just assume you have to get everything and anything else is an automatically terrible product. I think that's really unfair. Now, you can really get into the weeds with this, because then there will be people who say, but WP, sometimes they remove mechanics to sell it back to you as a DLC. And to that, I would say, I think a lot of the time people are overly cynical about that. I don't think that there's as black and white as they make out. And even if it's fully black, right? I still think fundamentally a lot of these games are good experiences and value for money. And just because it came out in 2013 and it's now 2026 or 2023, I still believe that old games are fun. I still believe that games that I played in the 90s have value. So why shouldn't I believe that a 2013 Paradox release has value? So I think there's a lot in it, and I think people review bomb and they hate the business model with all that, and I think it's all very tricky. But that happens with MMOs as well, right? And so there are ways around it. So yes, one of the things that Paradox does to try to address this £200 wall that I have to pay is they say, okay, we won't ask you to pay. You want all the I understand. You want all the DLCs. It's fear of missing out. You're vibrating in your seat and you're upset that you're going to be behind the other players, even though it's a single player game or whatever. You need it all. You need it. Give me everything and give it to me cheap. That's what you want, right? Okay, I hear you. And so Paradox says, okay, we'll give you instant access to everything for like $3, but it's a subscription. And we want $3 every month. If you stop paying that $3, we're going to take everything away again. You don't really own these DLCs. It's like Game Pass, basically. We'll do a mini Game Pass. So that's your choice. If you just want to pay $3, and I don't actually know what they charge. I'm sure it's a little bit more than that. And I think Paradox make a lot of money off of that. And this is what I've been trying to say to you guys. Like, not just in the video game industry, but in all industries, companies know that subscriptions are incredibly powerful. And they are very, very good insulators against their bottom lines. And they know that people will get that sub and they will forget about it and they will keep paying. And it's a huge thing. It props up entire industries. And there are game developers out there and game publishers and studios that are doing everything they can just to get you on a subscription. So Paradox has got all these different ways they're trying to monetize things. With MMOs, I don't really know so much of what's going on. You've got the Guild Wars strategy where I guess there's kind of a wall. How much of a wall is there with Guild Wars at the moment? Help me out here, live chat. I should know better, shouldn't I? But the fact is, I'm a veteran and I've been playing all this stuff as it's been coming out. What's the wall like for Guild Wars? What are your ways around the wall? I know that Final Fantasy XIV is like probably best in class for this. FF14 makes everything free after X years. And their community memes and clowns about it all the time. I think even Shadowbringers is free now, guys. Listen, I know we go on about it, right? But Shadowbringers is legitimately one of the best RPG stories you can play. If you actually go through it all, right? And I appreciate that some elements are a slog, right? Early on. It is one of the best RPG. Fuck the MMO element. It's one of the best things you can experience. And I think it's free. Like, straight up, just fucking free. And it's an MMO. Like, the only restriction on the free-to-play accounts on that, and you can go watch my own Let's Play. I was a free-to-play account for the first, like, 200 hours or something. Not that it was a 200-hour series, but my account was about that old. And it was all free up to Stormblood when I did it. It was a couple of years ago. And they've just added Shadowbringers to it now. It's it's fucking crazy. So going finally looping back to the commenter here, Generalistify, who says that they should do the Paradox style $3 and you get everything for Guild Wars 2. I mean, I kind of believe in it, but then I look at FF14 and I think, oh, I don't know. 14's just giving it to you for free, and I think the Guild Wars 2 players would not let that go. I think the reality here is, again, there are two things to talk about. There's what I think is actually right from a business model perspective, and probably the best thing to do. And there's a very scared nerd in me, right? Who's scared that Arenanet's going to have layoffs, and is scared that the talent's going to go away, and is scared that Guild Wars 3 is going to fail. There's a very, very fretful person there, right? And that person is really trying to push for money, basically, right? But there's another person in me as well that 100% accepts this is Guild Wars. These are Guild Wars players. This is the Guild Wars community. And most of the people in this community do not give a fuck about the reality. They just won't pay a sub. They don't give a fuck. This is Guild Wars. We're not paying a sub. Full stop. Get the fuck out of here. There's no sub. All right? And I think Colin understands that, and that's why the communications we've heard from Colin are straight down the line. No sub fee, no battle pass. That is the bed that they have made. And Colin is wrapping himself up in there. He's right under the blanket. He's under the weighted blanket. And he's snuggled up in a nice air-conditioned room, and he's sleeping in it. He's sleeping in that bed, and he's inviting all the other devs at that studio to get in the blanket with him. And he's saying, hey, come in here, guys. It's really cozy. We can do it, everybody. All right, sorry. Sorry, Colin. Wherever you may be. We need more American accents. So yeah, I don't know. There you go. That's what I think. I think that they can't do it, even if it's a pittance. Please, sir, please feed me for a pittance. Right, moving on. Itherahad says Eve's crafting system is just so this rounds out the Eve thing. Eve's crafting system is just fixed recipes with long durations. There's nothing that complex about it. Like most MMOs, it's a glorified fetch quest handed out by a UI instead of an NPC. That sounds awful. Fetch quests are bad enough. Actually, I'm going to go on the record. I think that fetch quests, describing things in terms of fetch quests, is really reductive. And how you package everything's a fucking fetch quest. It's all about packaging and execution, right? But the idea you just get it off of a UI, yeah, ugly. Anyway, the intrigue in that system is coming from the varied and the specific ways you get the ingredients and their very long supply chains. And it's the fact that the most efficient crafting and reprocessing facilities are player-owned structures that can be contested, and then after a timer, to allow the defenders to prepare, they can be even destroyed outright. Yeah, so it's like guilds or companies, as they're called, right? Like sweeping... Oh, we get to do Queensdale map comp! Yeah! Oh, it's time for some nostalgia here. I'm going to do this with no mounts. So it's really how people own the space, right? Isn't it? I'm kind of curious to read one of these Eve books. God, I'm so nervous it's going to be shit, though. Is there any chance any of you guys have read that book, that Eve Online book, or any of the... And are they actually any good? Is it like a really cringy, like, dramatization of the story? Or is it, The Shield Trainer is definitely the right way to do this, by the way. Not while I'm trying to discuss other things, but we'll see what we can do. If anyone's read it, I'd love to hear your endorsement. I'm a bit nervous about your endorsement. Oh, fuck, he baited me. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Well, we'll do the rifle. It takes forever, but this way I can just chit-chat. Look at these long cast... This has to be the longest cast time in the game. Look at that fucking cast time. Wait, do I have to release at the right time? Take aim. Hold. Hold. Oh, I can't hold much longer. Fire! Yeah. No, come on. The shield is definitely much quicker. I can't wait to play shit like this in Guild Wars 3. Yeah. Eat it, sucker. Oh, there's another player. Got him there. No, he baited me again. We'll try the sword one. Maybe this is the way we want to do it. What do we just do? Wait for this guy to stand up? Or wait for the icon to disappear, maybe? Can I do this while holding a conversation? Oh. No, I can't. Look, the shield guy... I'm just going to sit here, Zen-like, and do this, and then we'll go back. Oh, the guy that was fishing has logged out. I always feel so bad about that. Do you guys get that? Like, you feel really strongly like you have to keep the party going. Like, you have to make sure people are having fun in the game, that people don't log out or whatever. And then when they do, you just feel awful. Like it was your fault for not being entertaining enough or something. Anyone? No? Is that just my psychosis? Okay. Oh, yeah. What? Come on. I was clearly in the animation. There we go. We got it that time. It's 50% done. He does kind of follow a pattern with this. He should do 2 loops and then change it up. I think that's basically what he does. When there's a multitude of players around, though, it shifts it. Like, I think he'll come to me now. Okay, and now next time he loops through, it'll be different. This is now a wild card. It's different now. He could come to me on any of these. See, he went right, left, now to me. But I think we get the luxury of that twice. So I think he's going to go here, here, back to me now. Here, here. Oh, no. Fuck. Once more, I was actually pressing it. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe there's no pattern. Probably the answer is to stand back a bit so that he's got more travel to get to you, so you get more reaction time. Well, that didn't work either. My god, my reactions. I swear you can slow-mo this, though, and you will see me pressing. So much easier when you've got like a sense that he's going to come at you. Oh no! I'm going to take the hit. Oh no, I'm not. Oh, I wasn't close enough for it. Oh, okay, that's what happened. I was so far away he wasn't coming at me at all. There we go. Done. All right, next to the question. Next question. Yeah, interesting about Eve. The Noble Oak says, I got a lot of empathy for your story about your house being burgled. Thank you. Again, honestly, guys. All right, so let's hear some stories from you guys. I almost named this episode You Got Robbed. And we could have done a whole episode just purely on all of your stories about getting robbed, which I would have loved to do. But again, people are here for Guild Wars 3 chat. I've got a lot of empathy for your story about your house being burgled. Same thing happened at my apartment years ago, and you're spot on that it feels like a violation. On top of that, valuables, when they broke into my apartment, they stole a bunch of Hershey's chocolate bars from the fridge, which felt very petty, on top of the laptops and the camera. I love that. I love that what you remember is that the Hershey's bars was stolen as well. Yeah, that's insane as well, because you'd think, listen, I'm not a thief. I've never broken into anyone's house. I would never do that lightly. And I would like to think I never end up at such a hard place in my life that I end up doing that, right? I appreciate that anyone can be pushed, right? I have some empathy. But I'd like to think if I was a thief and I was doing such things, I would understand it's serious. I mean, maybe there's the rub. Maybe they don't understand how serious it is. Maybe they're just... But, and I wouldn't waste my time with bullshit. Like, how do you have time to just, like, get chocolate bars or, like, space? I don't know how that works, man. What did you say? Were you on holiday? I had so many stories from you guys on, like, different people being in different holidays. One guy was talking about how he got robbed out of a caravan that he was in while he was in it. So much stuff. In fact, that might even be highlighted as one of the things. Speaking about being pushed, I'll give you guys another robbing story of my own as well. This isn't a fun story. This doesn't link into Guild Wars 3 in any way. There's no, like... There's nothing poignant about this. I guess there's something vaguely poignant about it. So, when I was growing up, when I was younger... I don't know if this is just a UK thing or what, but, like... The friends of your parents would be your aunts and uncles. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Anyway, so my mum had a friend when I was like maybe 8 or something, and I remember we never used to get like fish and chips or fast food, but whenever we went to these people's house, we would get fast food all the time. They always had fish and chips, and I was like, oh my god, fish! I remember they basically introduced me to fish and chips, and I was like, holy shit, this is good. They had a Nintendo 64. I never had a Nintendo 64. And that was where I used to play, like, Super Mario 64 and stuff. Anyway, she had, like, a bunch of kids, and she'd been through this friend of my mum's. She'd gone through a divorce, and she was a very overweight lady. And she got this new boyfriend. And he told her... Hey, so this lady wasn't very smart, okay? She was a nice woman, and she had kids of her own, and she provided for kids of her own, and she had a lot of them, and she was in a high-stress situation, but she wasn't very smart, okay? Didn't really know how to sort of navigate the world, all right? Just a bit innocently ignorant, right? That's what I would call her. But otherwise nice. And a caring, doting mother. And, she went through this divorce. She met this guy. She was very overweight. and she met this guy. And this guy, I mean, I don't really know. I never really met him. I didn't know. Well, I did, but I was so young at the time. I can't really give a value judgment. But my understanding is this guy was a bit of a scumbag. And so anyway, he went to her and he said, hey, he knew she was insecure about being overweight. And he said to her, yeah, I've got a good solution for you if you're overweight. Heroin. I take heroin. You should do heroin with me. Heroin, it feels really good. And trust me, you won't want to eat anymore. Trust me, you'll just mong out. It's really fun. We should do heroin together. Let's get high. And this lady was like, I'll lose weight, will I? Okay. And she got really fucking addicted, lost all of her money, had her kids taken away from her, became a terrible mother. And my mum tried to be friends with her through the years. One day, this lady just showed up at my house that I grew up in when I was at school and my mum was out or at work or whatever. Went in and stole all of our jewelry. She was a nice woman, but she'd ran out of money and she needed the drugs, and that was it. She destroyed, and then we were never friends with her again and never saw her again, and that was it. But, you know, people, addiction and shit, like, and I just kind of look at that. I don't know, there's nothing poignant to say here. I have a bit of empathy for how some people, they get in a very, very bad way, and then, I don't know, they end up fucking stealing shit from burned out people's houses. I don't know. There you go. That was just an anecdote I was going to give you guys on the last part, and I didn't, and I thought I may as well there. There you go. Moving on. There you go, everybody. How's that? Do you like anecdotes like that? Do you like real doses of the real world? Sorry, were you here for escapism? Were you here to talk about lore about Ettins and visit Kilbron and where Halawa Joko came from and the potential of, you know, new varieties of Largos that we might meet in Guild Wars 3? No. That's not what I'm going to give you. I could have bought her N64 for dead cheap. That's true. That's true. I wasn't entrepreneurial enough, I suppose. Wow. That's cutthroat right there. That's the free market at work, everyone. What a disgusting thing to say. Yeah, deny the kid. Now the kids are losing their mother and their N64. Ithra had also had this comment about solo gameplay in MMOs. MMOs become more and more solo-centric, was the quote. ... Well, because they were not really designed to be MMOs to begin with, so he says. Eve is a full MMO. Guild Wars 2 is a partial MMO. Albeit with constant map events and resets to make everything a bit redundant, and lots of single-player interactions baked in. But most other games that call themselves MMOs lean on siloed quests, personal achievements that do not affect the world that anyone else experiences, inherently single-player experiences from the beginning. Well, like, WoW doesn't let you finish the story unless you play co-op in big raids and stuff, right? Does that not justify them as an MMO? And they're raids, so they are massive party sizes, right? I don't know. How do we want to weasel our way into getting an MMO definition? I think there's a lot of ways that you can get into the weeds about what makes something an MMO, and let's be real. But anyway, I see what you're getting at here. Very few people want to fight against all of that. Sorry, no, I skipped a bit. Inherently single-player experiences from the beginning, and on top of that, they actively discourage playing together on any massive scale with things like restrictive kill counts, kill credit, loot right systems, locking most of the good loot in instances with limited player counts. Very few people want to fight against all of that closed form, limited agent game design by sitting around waiting for an hour, which could be most of their available time for video games that day, to form parties. So the next natural step is to remove the structural friction altogether and let people complete things on their own. I think you're absolutely right. I think you've totally nailed all the things that Arenanet were looking at in 2010, 11, and 12. Yeah, when they were making this. when they were making exactly this. They were removing all the friction, but they were trying to keep it feeling like an MMO by like leaning on dynamic events was kind of the big thing. I'm really interested to see a retrospective on dynamic events from Arenanet with regard to Guild Wars 3. I don't know whether they'll do it though, because it's, in a way, any retrospective they do is kind of like shitting on Guild Wars 2 and perpetuating this notion that we should be moving on from Guild Wars 2 because it failed in its aims. So then to hide from that, the blog posts aren't going to be authentic or honest. I don't know. I wonder what they'll do in terms of their communications. A quick aside, in MMOs, we should never confuse structural friction with gameplay friction. Gameplay friction can affect how you play the game, but structural friction can prevent you from playing the game at all until some conditions are met. The former can be very good, the latter is usually bad. Sorry, he didn't use the word very there, I added that. I'm getting a bit too jazzy with it and putting words in people's mouths. He says, this problem would not exist with real multiplayer gameplay elements and a properly persistent world, but those are very harder to design. RTS games show that we have had the technology to make true multi-agent PvE worth writing books about since the mid-90s. And Guild Wars 2 shows that we can do it with good gameplay too, so not EVE Online, since the late 2000s. But alas, it's difficult and a risky prospect in an already expensive industry. And that is a recipe for it simply never happening. Ashes of Creation was on the right track at a conceptual level, but unfortunately Sharif, who or what is Sharif? Is that the studio that made Ashes? They neither knew nor cared how to operate a project like that effectively. And he was a scummy individual who brought this scummy business partners in, so that whole thing ended in ruins. RIP. PAX Day sounded promising, but they're making the usual sandbox mistake of starting with a completely empty world and expecting players to make all the content, instead of having a dynamic one, where players' interactions with all the content affect what other players see. So, ... Probably also rest in peace. I like a lot of your phrasing here, and I like the ideas that you've got on a high level, but I want more ticky-tacky details. What are we actually talking about? What are we trying to make? And that's why I say like a retrospective on dynamic events would be very, very good. Because I don't think dynamic events are a lost cause. I think that they have a lot to give. I think going bigger and bolder and more interesting with them in terms of the ways that they branch or how irregularly they flow. I don't know. See, that's the thing. I need to actually really sit down and figure out some like some substantive like things that they can do with dynamic events to really salvage the idea and make them better than just turning their backs on them. But you know, I think World versus World, there's something about PvP elements and World versus World elements that's really good. You know, I always look at their prototype for that game type, Fortune's Veil, right? If you guys watched my video about the Fortune's Veil, which was going to be a huge asymmetric World versus World game mode, kind of like a raid in World versus World, where one server is defending the raid wing and two other servers are racing their way through it. Does that sound cool? It looked fucking awesome. They made a huge map for it. They had voice acting. They were like ready to go. And then they shit-canned it. It's crazy, man. You know, stuff like that is like, there's your dynamic gameplay. But again, that's player conflict, and that's player v player, and... You know, I would almost feel stronger and more confident and more ready for Guild Wars 3 if Arenanet had said, hey, Guild Wars 3 is going to be a very different game to Guild Wars 2. Why? Because this is World versus World, the game. If they had come out and said that to me, I think I'd be really giddy about it. Even as someone who doesn't play that much World vs. World, because I would assume that it's not held back in all the ways that Guild Wars 2's World vs. World is. Like, annoying blobbing and culling setting and server tick rates and buildcraft compromised by the fact that it's also trying to deal with raids and all this other shit, you know, like, and new classes just for World vs. World. Like an entire game, 90 devs dedicated just to World vs. World in its own engine and all that. I would be, and shit like the Fortune's Veil is available in there. Oh boy, I would love that shit. You're fucking right, I'd be down for that. But instead they've said it's an MMO just like Guild Wars 3, but it's going to be different. And now I'm sort of scratching my head. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Which systems are being refined? Which ones are being changed? Are you going big with the changes or little? But yeah, as for Ashes of Creation, I don't know. I never followed it. So they just shit the bed. And that's another thing to think about. MMO design, guys. MMO development is so hard. There are so many ways that these studios can fuck it up. And the truth of this, of why I'm here and why I care about Arenanet and I trust them with Guild Wars 3 or any other product that they put out. You guys might find the real reason, the big reason, you might find it to be very ironic after all this I'm talking about with sub fees and stuff. But I trust them from a business perspective. I trust them not to do a bunch of scummy shit. I trust them not to suddenly get sold to a new publisher. I trust them not to turn their back on like business model ideas, right? So yeah, on the one hand, I'm saying, is Colin being naive by saying no battle pass, no sub fee? But on the other hand, it's that exact strict adherence to the way that they handle the business that gives me trust in them and them alone. Because yeah, like I was never going to give a real rat's ass about Ashes of Creation because none of these other MMOs, they all get desperate. They all freak out at some point. They all run out of funding. They all do scummy shit on their gem stores. All of them. They all do it. There are only a few that I trust won't rock the boat too hard or that the frogs are already boiled and people have basically realized it's fun anyway. And that's the big five. That's RuneScape, WoW, ESO, World of Warcraft, and Guild Wars 2. Let's put Guild Wars 2 at spot number 5 down there. When it comes to new MMOs, like totally new studios, they haven't stood the test of time. They haven't proven their worth. And I don't trust them. I don't trust them. I don't know what... See, here you're calling someone scummy. And again, as we said in a recent episode, I don't really like this thing of calling individual devs scummy or whatever. But sidestepping that for a second, I don't know what happened with Ashes. But it does feel like I can't trust the other studios, you know. But I can trust Arenanet. We had another donation there from RPG Crash. RPG Crash, I'm pretty sure I've got a message of yours coming up in just a second. Dude, that is $50. Thank you so much for the $50. The PC Fund thanks you. We're on our way, guys. I'm going to cringe to say this, but only £940 to go. That's a lot of money, £940. But we're well over halfway now. Look at how fucking bonkers that is. Thank you so much, RPG Crash. And hey, it doesn't matter that you didn't put a comment because I know you've got one coming up in a second. $1.99 from Diderus there. Micro Dono, thank you very much. They're appreciated as much as anything. Favorite dog breeds? I don't know, really. I like all dogs. I like all dogs as long as they're not like, you know, ludicrously violent breeds that attack people and, you know... If you lay down and shake on the floor, they'll misinterpret it as you dying prey, and all of a sudden they're tearing your throat out or whatever. That I don't really agree with, but yeah, I don't know. Dogs are amazing. I love dogs. I read a thread on Reddit like a few months ago of someone. It was on like the unpopular opinion sub, and it was a genuinely unpopular opinion. But he basically was saying how much he or she, I don't know, how much they hated dogs. And they were like, they're gross with their fucking slobber and their teeth. They look scary. They always look scary. If you just pull their lips up, they look gross and fucking messy. And they rub their asses on the floor. Not all dogs do that, by the way, but this guy was convinced of it. And they're loud. Not all dogs do that, by the way, but he was convinced of it. And they're hairy and shed everywhere. Not all dogs do that, but he was convinced of it. He just had all these things, and it was kind of hard to argue against him, to be honest, because to a certain degree, dogs are kind of like I get it. And I get why people are scared of them, but they're amazing, man. I feel bad for you if you didn't grow up around dogs and you had that fear in you. Because they're very loyal companions. Even if they are tough as puppies, as you guys heard, you know, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago, I was dog sitting and going mad. Thankfully, I'm no longer dog sitting, and I'm no longer going mad. All right. More plus Zam says, I never read book. Sorry, hey, this is a weird comment because it doesn't. There's not a discussion here. Oh shit, we're over an hour. Well, it's okay. We'll just ignore that for a second. More plus Zam says, I never read I never read books. I never talk to NPCs. I never talk to any NPCs outside of the main story. I love the lore, but as soon as I try to be interested in them, I feel like I get flooded with boring stuff that doesn't matter. And when I get interesting fragments of lore, I don't understand them because they deliver them in a misty way. And I cannot remember enough to correctly place them in the Guild Wars lore. I think this was a really good comment. Because I think that the vast majority of players that I see, especially in Gen Z and below, sorry, let's not get generational about it. Fuck that. Ignore what I just said there. But I see this in a lot of people. I see this in myself. It's really hard to get into established lore of other games. It's really hard. When there's a bunch of other games and you try to get into it and there's fucking pedantic people on Reddit and the forums that they crowd you out when you try to talk about it, or you try to talk innocently about it. They make you feel stupid. You just feel like an outsider. You feel like you have like an encyclopedia worth of shit to inhale. You can't inhale it organically. So you're like trying to cram, you know, like me at the start of that PoE 2 LP that I did, where I was on the wiki while we were downloading and waiting to log in. And none of it sticks. And then you're finding lore books in the maps, and they're all they're all over the place, and you don't really get a good story because you're piecing pieces together of the puzzle, and you don't have the outside context. It's shit. It's shit. It's shit. It's shit. I totally agree. It's really hard, and I think that good writing in MMOs is actually good systems to deliver stories and make everyone feel welcome and give everyone that nice, decent starting point. And build you up together. And I think Guild Wars 3 is going to struggle with this. I think a lot of people are like that. And I don't think you're just Zoomer-brained. I think this is a real problem. And it's nice to just see someone be honest and admit that. Because a lot of people won't admit that they feel this way. They do feel this way, but they're not going to say it out loud. You did, so good job to you. It's nice to hear you say you love the lore anyway, even though you find it difficult to get into it. It is that weird thing, and you know, it's like I've been a beneficiary of this for years, where, there you go, the OG heart just got finished. It's kind of more fun to just hear a mate tell you about it, and to hear someone authentically geek out about it, than to have that experience yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not real until you hear it from someone else. If it's only in your own head, it's like, and you're even a little bit lacking in confidence with your knowledge of the lore. If you have gaps, like those gaps create all this uncertainty, and now you don't even know how much you can really latch onto your own enthusiasm. So instead you find yourself wondering, I wonder if WP really liked this story beat. I wonder if he let's played this bit. And then you see it, and WP is really keen and really excited and thought the same thing as you, and now you're allowed to be happy about it. And it's that weird thing, isn't it, where if you don't know it fully, you don't really... It's hard to get invested. I know exactly what that feeling is like for a million other games and a million other franchises. I know exactly what you mean. Guild Wars happens to be one that I played through every game when it came out, so I have those broad strokes, and I feel sort of comfortable with it, but like a lot of people are not, and it's a shame and it's weird. I don't know. And I think it holds people's enthusiasms back. I don't know how that I have an answer to it. I just thought it was cool to see someone say that. Moving on, we have another donation here. Sorry, a donation from Anthony. Anthony Marijanel. Hey WP, long-time watcher, thank you. With the $5, thank you. Was wondering if you're going to make any videos about the revitalization updates for the game after VOE. Absolutely, yeah. I'm not going to stop covering it. Yeah, we'll talk about what they... You mean so like what Grouch mentioned in terms of they're going to overhaul the pipeline and how they get models and stuff into the game so that they can contract cheap labor. Oh, wait, he didn't say that last bit. That's the bit that... That was the quiet bit that you don't say out loud. No, yeah, anything they do to improve the engine and the rendering, yeah, I'll definitely cover. 100%. That's from soft storytelling in general. See, I think I like it a lot more when it's a single product. Like, I allow myself to really dig into it because I know I haven't missed anything yet. And I'm only really comfortable if I haven't missed anything. Once I know that I've missed stuff, I don't know how big the stuff is that I might have missed. So now I just feel really weird and off balance the whole time. But, you know, if you're just starting Elden Ring all on your own and you know that everything that you can possibly have seen is there, you can just have that experience, right? And like FF14 is part of Final Fantasy, right? So there's little tidbits, but it's an anthology series. You know you're just playing through it all. I don't know. And that one was able to capture me. Right, moving on. Dragon God Dragoneel 7106 says, WP, if you know why optional sub fees are bad for Guild Wars... if you want to know why they're bad, you should check out Elder Scrolls Online, and you should check out the Fallout subs. So Dragon God's got a very good counter-argument to the optional sub fee thing. Kind of. I'll just let him speak. He says, so, it's equivalent in Guild Wars 2 would be only people who get the sub get those material storage expanders and double your inventory, and you can't buy material storage in Gem Store. No more. It's the only way to acquire it. Think about how bad or disruptive the gameplay would be if you didn't have 2k material storage and you had to constantly sell things. That is what you are asking when you mean optional sub, and it is what it will be. You can't say it's not like that for these other games. All these other games you are only playing as demo players without a subscription. You see Star Wars MMO as well, and the limitations imposed by people without subs. When people say they don't want it, they mean this shit. Also, with the way the industry is going, you will have optional subs plus Gem Store, same way as player base is used to the current Gem Store. Think of it from a business perspective from NCSoft or any publishers. When you say subs, you come off as a time traveler from 2000s and with rosy glasses. All right, there's a few things in here. Again, I understand that if they did a VIP system, there would still be a Gem Store. At no point have I said that they would get rid of a Gem Store completely for a VIP. Yes, there's a utopian idea that it's just a sub and that's it, right? Well, there's a utopian idea that it's a perfect game and no one ever has to pay anything because the world runs on good vibes and that's it, right? But obviously, you know, there's a couple of pay pigs out there that just fund it out of the goodness of their hearts. By the way, which is the Patreon model and is currently funding a PC for us, so I don't know. Can you make an MMO on Patreon? Let's do it, Arenanet. That's all they need to do. They need to just open a Patreon account and they need to let people donate on their live streams. What do you guys think? New monetization model unlocked? All right, look. You're putting words in my mouth with this answer. At no point have I advocated for an optional sub under the illusion that it would get rid of a Gem Store. I have claimed it would be insurance against over-leveraging that Gem Store. It means that they don't have to push the Gem Store so hard. It means that they can ease off on some of these other practices that we maybe don't like, that we maybe don't like, such as gold to gems, gem to gold, selling mounts, selling skins that look better than legendaries, outfits, whatever hill you want to die on, right? Maybe we can pull some of that back in. You have to do a rational adult conversation where we're talking about like sliding scales and degrees of severity and what we can do to mitigate issues rather than talking about panaceas that black and white solve or do not solve a thing, all right? So I think that your comment's a bit foolish for that, all right? I'm saying it can do some good and it can help to tackle problems. I'm not saying it can solve the entire thing, but it's worth solving some of it, right? You don't just throw it all away just because you can't get a 100% solution. And so the other thing I want to attack that you've talked about here is the business perspective argument. Okay, let's think about the business perspective. On the one hand, we have Arenanet telling NCSoft West, yeah, we're never doing a sub. And then NCSoft West says, please, and they flash them the puppy dog eyes. and they say, no, we're not doing it. And then NCSoft says, no, okay then. All right. Which is the situation we're in right now. Or we could be in a world where they say, please do a sub, and Arenanet says, okay, we will. And NCSoft says, yes. And they say, but we're not going to do this shitty material storage practice. We're not going to tie it to inventory management. We're not going to create issues for players that the optional sub only solves. And NCSoft, if we're looking at it from a business perspective, will say, okay, anyway, that's still better than what we've got. That still gives us something. So, yeah. So I fundamentally disagree with your notion that they will have to tie it to like gross gem store inventory management stuff, which is what, yes, Fallout 76 does with the stash and stuff. And I assume crowns maybe in ESO, I don't know. They don't have to do the inventory management stuff. That's one of the hills that Arenanet can die on. That's when Colin gets to come out on stage and say, hey, we're not going to invent player problems. We're going to create an optional sub, but this time, we're not going to sell you back. And so, again, and what your comment is blind to is the fact that Arenanet are doing it anyway. They're selling the bag slots anyway. They're selling the deep material storage to you anyway. They're just not threatening to remove it behind a sub, which is admittedly worse. So, you know, there's a lot wrapped up in this. And I think you're wrong to assume that any kind of optional sub would absolutely have to have manufactured player problems. Arenanet can do it in a way where it's all carrot and no stick. And I think that's what they did with the Chinese VIP, isn't it? We should look at that. We should really look at that. Hold on. Let's see how good the Guild Wars 2 wiki is, shall we? I have a feeling, and it's very rare that this happens, but I have a feeling they might let us down. But let's see what we got. And this video is going to run a little bit over, but only because I'm adding this extra little section in here. Otherwise, we would have made it in time. I'm going to type the words VIP into the search. VIP access. No, that's a title. I'm going to type China. Why am I doing this behind closed doors? Here you go. I'll let you guys watch it. What do we want to... China Game Developers Conference. Chinese release. Guild Wars 2 China. Primary article. This article provides an overview of the Chinese release. I'm going to Control F for the words VIP. VIP Royal Title System. Loyalty Program. Monetization model. The web store is a little confusing. They don't have any art on here. I have data mined the client before and seen the VIP icons, and they're all really fucking cool. They have like all this fun extra like UI and stuff in there. The website's a little confusing, and the majority of the purchases are made using Kongzong points. They're coupon tokens. They're a currency unique to the web store. The exchange rate between RMB and Kongzong points is 1 to 20. The official store has activation keys. The gem mall, which lets you spend gems. And the skin mall, which is skins for mounts. Skins for mounts in the skin mall. This is new. I never saw this back in the day when it came out, because mounts weren't in the game. 1% mail. Highly discounted items such as black line keys, bag slots, bag tabs. This gets updated every week and is limited to 1 purchase a week. Queen Jenna's treasure trove. Aside from the almost permanent royal titles, the categories of items sold vary greatly, ranging from cheap to expensive. Frequently sell unusual items, updated weekly. The item shop. More valuable and expensive items such as equipment skins, mount skins, high-level infusions on the gem store. Ascended equipment. Even legendary equipment on the gem store, updated weekly. The Crystal Dragon's treasure. The update frequency for this is very low, and the use is relatively small. The items sold are relatively cheap. This information is spotty. Loyalty program. This is the thing we're mostly interested in. But Wiki doesn't have all the, like... Oh, God. Let me have a quick look. If I can find this quickly, I'll show you guys them, because they're cool as fuck. Let me see. Resources drive. Resources. Game resources. Guild Wars franchise. Guild Wars 2. Data mined, DATs. Textures. UI textures. Let me run a Windows search within the directory for VIP. No, I don't know what resolution they're at. I don't know what resolution they're at. I did used to have... I mean, I do still have. Hold on. Chinese launch. No, I have some images from the Chinese launch. Arenanet stream. Guild Wars 2 UI art. Let me check in there real quick. Okay, I do have it. Oh, I might have something here. Hold on. Hold on. Full client. Skills and more. Special art items and more. I might have to dig these out between episodes. Nah, this archive's way too big. Way too big. There's way too much to look at. I can't find it. Anyway, let's just stay on Wiki then. Loyalty program. Customers who have a certain amount of money and they are eligible for VIP customer benefits. Well, this is weird. This is not how I remember it being. So this is you spend money and then you get a benefit. This isn't you subscribe. VIP customer service. What is that? Game privileges. What are those? Exclusive events for VIPs? What are those? Birthday gifts, daily gifts, redeemable. This is not the system as I know it to be. Oh, here you go. Royal Club or Royal Title system. VIP status or premium membership can be activated for 30 days by purchasing the Royal Title emblem for loads of gems. When activated, the color of the player's name changes to pink. Here you go. Picture from alpha testing revealing VIP benefits. Ready for the bit. This is written in English. Ready for the big leagues? Step up to the plate and join the elite group of VIP members. Only VIP members enjoy the exclusive benefits and make life worth living. Enroll today and find out what you've been missing. Wow, were they thinking of pushing this to the West at one point? So if you become a VIP, this is an optional subscription for Guild Wars. You would have got gem store discounts, additional bag slots for all your characters, convenient banking, an additional character slot, extra bank space, gift bag. I wonder what that is. What, you double click it and get stuff? Teleporting to friends. This just sounds like items, maybe? Additional skill points. Convenient trading. What is that? Lower TP tax, maybe? Prestige and recognition. And that's the icons I was trying to find, where basically you would get like more and more stars as the years went or months went along, and then it would become like a crown and stuff. A resurrection buff. Isn't that spelt wrong? Isn't it double R 1S? And they've gone double S 1R. And much more. Oh, here you go. Here's some of the UI art. That's like a low tier. That's like 1 star. And you can see it at the top of his inventory. And he's working towards the waypoint there and some of this other stuff. Yeah, I remember when I played the Chinese client, it had that on that. So I've got a video somewhere of it. And here you go. Yeah, okay. Unlocking... So it's called the Royal Club. It's a premium VIP membership model for the Chinese release in which members get benefits such as in-game perks. It was introduced in 2014. Unlocking the Royal Club benefits provides players access to Royal Club benefits such as a bank and trading post access directly from their inventory. Royal Club members get a daily loot chest as a login reward. Yeah, login rewards were specifically for people with that as well. As well as additional rewards for every daily achievement they complete. Royal Club gets split into 5 titles of 4 levels each. A total of 4 to 15 Royal points used to level the titles can be earned daily by logging in. So not only do they get a sub out of you, but you log in as well. And they're really aggressive about this, obviously. There's a lot of stick in this. Mystery gift. So you got Baron, Baron 2, Baron 3, Earl, Duke. They're like world versus world ranks almost, aren't they? Prince, and then Emperor. They're very weird. Ooh, 5 globs of dark matter. Ooh. This is all very new player experience, isn't it? Fucking 200 ecto for Prince 2 and 5 globs of my dark matter here. That's hilarious. Oh, look, the jetpack. People were grinding and training hard for that. The panda finisher. Hello? We don't have a panda finisher. Arenanet, where's my panda finisher? Where's my elephant? Where's my elephant? Where's my elephant? Damn. I wonder how much, like, actually unique shit they've got. That's pretty interesting. Slayerite weapons. Whoa. 100 obsidian shards. What is the final thing at Emperor 4? A precursor. Yeah, I remember. That was a hugely controversial thing back then. Anyway, there you go. There's a little look at the VIP system. So, obviously, we're all going to look at that and be aghast and think to ourselves, holy fuck, I don't want that for Guild Wars 3. And I think you're all right to feel that way. But what I want to do is creak the door open to the idea that there might be an authentic or good way of doing it that doesn't fuck people over. It's just that thing. It's like, where's the line? How hard do you figure out? The more appetizing you make it look, the more terrible it also looks. They're not pay pigs, they're pay pandas. I guess so, right? Yeah, and Robert John in chat just puts the nail on the head. What happens what happens to the bag in the character slot when you unsub? Great question. And that's the point. That's how Fallout 76 gets you. That's how Final Fantasy 14 gets you with the extra retainers, right? Once you drop it, all your items get locked in there. You can withdraw them, but you can never put them back, which becomes a logistical nightmare and is kind of a sneaky trapdoor way of keeping people on the sub. And Arenanet have to ask themselves whether they want, and I think all great artists have to do this, whether they're going to be authentic and real, or they're eventually going to take the bag, right? Where's my panda finisher is such a great sentence. It is, isn't it? Right, okay. Nick last name says, on the comment about console player communication, modern consoles support keyboard and mouse. My brother and his wife played FF14 on PS4 together for a long time. My brother would have a wireless keyboard on the couch next to him that he would sit on his lap to type whenever he needed to. But also, most modern games do have voice chat. New World let you choose between open voice chat where everyone can hear you, or only people in your party, and settings to not hear people, etc. New World was everyone on PC and console together. Communication wasn't a problem. People on console were typing in chat all the time, just the same. There were symbols next to their names to show the platform. I don't really think it's an issue these days. You just turn off the setting to hear other players if you don't want to hear random people. And how was the quality to those voice comms, though? That's my question. I would love that shit. I say bring it on. I say put it into Guild Wars 2. I say put it into Guild Wars 3. Guild Wars 1. I mean, Christ, if any of the games actually I want in-game voice comms, it's GW1, because they're all fucking middle-aged people in crisis mode, trying to relive their childhoods as they look about and have to come to terms with the fact that instead of having three money and no kids, they have 3 kids and no money. Liam Doyle 38386 has a cool comment. He says, as someone who started playing Guild Wars 2 in between Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, I found Season 1 not being there very jarring when I got to the end of the personal story. I was quite engaged with the story at that point, and then realised the cast had completely changed and all I got was a cutscene. I also realised that I had missed several Season 2 episodes and would have to pay over 1,000 gems after just buying Heart of Thorns to follow the story properly. It was a very weird experience, and it pulled me right out of the story. Yeah, Liam, thank you for reminding me of the real conversation, the real topic, and that was the gem gates. All right, how quickly we forget, guys. Do we think that gem gates are going to be in Guild Wars 3? Fuck no, I don't. That's a lesson they have recently learned, and I don't think that they will do. Yeah, the gem gates really screwed this game. Yeah, we ran out. We didn't... You know, you look at a game like 14, and it grew in numbers in its later years and kept going from strength to strength. Why wasn't Guild Wars? It's because of this. It was the gem gates. The gem gates were awful. And, you know, I just want to note as well, everybody listen to Liam. What is Liam saying? He's pointing out that he was quite engaged by the end of the personal story. He was into the story at that point. And I'll say it again. I don't think the personal story is that bad. I think it is... It's probably really annoying listening to me talk about the personal story because I give you 2 comments about it all the time. I think that the personal story is both not that bad, but also I think it fell incredibly short of where it could have been for petty reasons. So I endlessly go on about the terrible personal story because I'm like, fuck, Arenanet, you were inches from greatness, right? If you just did this different, if you just did this, right, so I'll talk in those terms. But at the end of the day, I think it was all right, and I think a lot of people were into the story. And you know, even as bad as the Zhaitan fight was and is, they're there in that moment, and then oh no, they have to skip season 1, and oh no, here's this whole new cast, and oh no, here's some gem gates. You're goddamn right, all these people bounced off. And you know, there's another thing as well, which is once that's happened to you once, that there's this big weird quality drop and weird jump, you can now no longer trust the game to not do it again. So now when you're trying to get used to Timey and Marjorie and Casimir and Bram and the whole new crew, you're kind of thinking to yourself, are they going to jump the shark again? Is it going to happen again? Am I really into this? And trust me, it just fucking shakes everyone's faith in you as storytellers. Here's Zuhang. He hasn't had a comment for a while about having romance with NPCs. Here we go. I'm personally not for it because I have very little faith that in Arenanet to actually depict good romances on screen, he says. When I think of on-screen romances in Guild Wars 2, I think of the cringy dating scene at the end of the Giala tunnel patch, which definitely did not save the patch from being an all-time low. I think of Marjorie and Casimir, who had that weirdly written and easily missable friction in Flashpoint. I don't even remember that, by the way. I think of, as WP said, the end scene with Jenna and Joe, of Janthia Wilds with Jenna, Logan, and Ellen, which is funny and all, but I just don't care for. On the other hand, the romances I am into are those behind the scenes. I like the relationship between Keith and Fowlane, whose romance is only described in dialogue and short stories, because it reflects the struggle for Sylvari between Dream and Nightmare. I like Ritlock and Krisha's dynamic precisely because they're never written as a lovey-dovey couple, which is fair for the Char. I like the hint at the relationship between Isgarin and Vars because it prompts questions about the world building, their opinion on the Six, the dynamic between the elder races. For what it's worth, I'm also not into the Guild Wars 1 romances, like Sin and Menlo or the Hearts of the North, but I've always felt the Guild Wars 1 story is rather scattered and doesn't really focus on the characters, so I think that's the main reason. I cannot think of any romance that's been actively depicted by Arenanet that I'm remotely into. They have been cheeky and frankly far too modern, and too boring for me to care about. I only like romance by Arenanet when it's merely a tool for the world building and character study, when the process of the romance doesn't matter. But if they are to add romance with NPCs in Guild Wars 3, surely the process matters, and I don't believe that they can write a good love story. Beyond that, I imagine writing romance for the player character will be like the personal story. If they want it to be interesting and impactful, because it will have to be optional or pick your own love interest, and it will likely be a whole mess of branches and choices that end up going nowhere. Wow, what an incredible comment, and I literally have something to reflect basically every sentence. So I'm going to read that again now. And I'm going to give you my little bits. All right, you have little faith that they'll depict it well on screen. I actually don't know. With respect to player romance, I don't know whether I have little faith. I haven't seen Arenanet try it yet. I haven't seen them try it. I haven't seen them try to be BioWare. I haven't seen them, you know, make a dating sim or a dating game. Maybe they don't have the talent for it. Maybe they do. So for me, this is one of those things where I'll go into it naked and I'll just see where it is. But as far as the other on-screen romances, let's see. It's funny. I actually found the tea house date room at the end of the Gala patch quite fun. You can go back and watch my LP on it, and I was thoroughly entertained. I had fun with it. It wasn't a deep emotional beat. It didn't like get my heart going. I didn't cry. I wasn't really invested in everyone's little romantic stories, and certainly I've never had that. I've never felt romantic, right? With the Guild Wars 2 romances, not for a second. But that patch and that romantic aspect or whatever, it was just fun. It was entertaining. I actually quite liked that, and I'd take that again. And I thought it did help what was otherwise a terrible patch. Personally, I thought that was all right. And you can see me playing it and enjoying it. You think of Marjorie and Casimir with the missable friction in Flashpoint. What was the missable friction? Marjorie and Casimir were weird because 99% of their story was off screen. So, like, when they finally kissed at the end of Season 1, I was utterly uninvested in it because I hadn't seen anything building to it, really. And that was what kind of sucked about it. And that again just loops back to quantity for me. There's never enough quantity. So that was what always felt weird. And the same with their, that was their wedding or whatever at the end of EOD. You know, the Dragon arc was this huge decade-long story. And Arenanet decided the way to end that arc with so many characters and so many nations and so many stories and so many settings was to end it with an intimate moment with their romance. And why that felt galling to me and off to me and weird, and just as their kiss on the Breachmaker felt weird, is because I'm not invested in these characters. Because their romance hasn't been at the beating heart of the whole story, so why is it being risen to prominence at the end of the whole story? That's what always felt weird to me about it. Like, they needed to do a lot more. They needed to have the ups and the downs. They needed to have the flirting in there. They needed to have, you know, split the characters apart and see how that really upsets them. And, you know, you need to be Jim and Pam. You need to have them making eyes at each other for fucking 2-3 seasons before they finally, you know, you have the big moment. I love Jim and Pam. Do you know what? Marjorie and Casimir are nowhere near it because you just don't get any authentic real beats with them. Because Arenanet can't give you authentic real beats because they just don't have the quantity. I believe MMOs can do it, but Arenanet don't have the quantity, so they're stuck ping-ponging around these massive set pieces and these world-ending moments. And Guild Wars 3 runs all those risks too, I think. So that's what I think there. Kaith and Foul Lane's interesting. Because, yeah, we don't see the process of the romance, but we sort of see... I don't know. I don't know what I think about them. Are they just at advantage because they're written about in a novel? And novels have the upper hand here? Maybe. Ritlock and Kreesha, I actually don't like their romance. You say you like it because they're not lovey-dovey, but all I see is Kreesha being mean to Ritlock all the time. I don't see Ritlock being mean to her. I see him just being a wet blanket, and I fucking hate Ritlock being a wet blanket. I hate oh, Ritlock was a bullied carbon. Ritlock's so worldly now. I fucking hate that. And it's just Kreesha trampling on him all the time. And it's just, I don't like their dynamic at all. If there was a bit more back and forth with that, I think it would be brilliant and it would be very char. But I kind of don't see that. I feel like it's too one-sided. Also, I don't think they're romantic with each other at all. Sometimes I applaud that, like Kim Wexler and Jimmy McGill in Better Call Saul. That's an incredibly captivating relationship to watch because they're so sexless. They're so passionless, but you can tell it's because they're in a phase of their relationship where they're just incredibly close with one another. And it's so heartbreaking to see what happens. when she's fucking that guy at the end of the series, and he's just going yep, 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 and it's black and white, and it's this weird idea of like a nightmare. It's not as bad as getting killed and buried beneath a meth lab, all right? But, you know, she had her own unhappy ending, I'll give you that. No, that's not a spoiler, guys. I didn't say any character names there, and you're not. You will be spoiling it if you say any character names. Anyway, you know, is it fair to say that an MMO can give us something like that? No, I think that's far too subtle. I don't think we'll ever get something like that. Is Garen and Vast interesting? Yeah, as a function of the world building. And I totally agree with you there. For Guild Wars 1, you mentioned Heart of the North and stuff. The OG romance in that game is Koss and Maloney, surely, right? And I've always said that that was good. I like Koss and Maloney in Nightfall. What was wrong with Koss and Maloney? It wasn't a very deep romance, but I applaud the storytelling getting sophisticated enough to be able to touch on that. So I thought it was alright. So yeah, I don't know. The question is, what this fundamentally, with the idea of player romance anyway, just to put a cap on this, what this really fundamentally comes down to is Arenanet going to go for the personal story again? And I'm going to poll you guys. Your daily poll. Let's do this. Ready? Let's start a poll. Yes or no? Go with your gut here. I'm not asking you what you want to see. I'm not asking what you want, okay? I'm pretty sure most of you would want it, right? What I'm asking you is, are they going to do it? One of the fundamental things about Guild Wars 2 was Arenanet looked at MMOs, they looked at player problems in MMOs, and they said, hey, these worlds don't react to you. They're not real RPGs. They're too static. So we're going to make the personal story so that your choices matter, right? And then what happened? They hit development crunch, and a lot of the branches didn't get the development time that they needed. They rushed, they panicked, they freaked out. And then they tried to reinvent the wheel with Living World. And then they went into Heart, which left no space for the personal story. And then they went into Heart of Thorns, and they were crunched and they were rushed, which left no space for the personal story. Though they did try a little bit there. If you remember, there were some choices in Heart of Thorns. Do you go to the left instance or the right instance kind of thing? And the Sylvari got a bit of their own thing. And they just sort of slowly settled off of it, and took the pedal off the gas, right? Now, here we are. We're in 2026. Everybody, I want you to alt-tab. Will Arenanet go back to that? Do they still believe in it, or have they thrown the towel in? That's the fundamental question. If the answer to the question is, yeah, we're going to try the personal story again, and we think we found a way to do it, right? If the answer is we're going to give it our best shot again, and we're going to try it even in expansions and subsequent campaigns or whatever they're going to do, right? If the answer is yes, then why not try romance? Why not? Because that's what you're trying to be. You're trying to be BioWare. And there's a lot of people that only play BioWare games because the sex is fun, right? And because the romance is fun. There's a lot of people that do that. And I say, hey, come on in. As long as Arenanet can do it well enough. I liked romancing Liari. Liara. Fucking hell. I always get her confused with Liadri, the concealing dark. I would give him a shot. So where do you guys think? Will they or won't they? And I just want to say, me, as WoodenPotatoes, I haven't got a clue. And guys, if you weren't able to watch this live, put your comments in the YouTube comments. Let me know. I haven't got a clue. I really don't know which way they'll go with that. And that's one of the things that I'm fascinated to see as Guild Wars 3 Daily goes along. A big part of me says no, because if they felt they had the capacity to do it, why not bring that back to Guild Wars 1? Back to Guild Wars 2. But there's a lot of like structural inertia and shit with how Guild Wars 2 is being run. You know, maybe they need to go back to the drawing board for something like that. I don't know. I don't know. And there's a secondary question. If you said yes, do you trust them to see it through this time? Here's another story about someone getting something stolen from them. We used to have a barbecue kettle in front of our house to use frequently, and it was randomly gone one day. A barbecue kettle? First, I don't know what that is, by the way. Is that just like a barbecue rack? It was randomly gone one day, and like in the middle of the day. So at some point, maybe a random person driving by, or someone who had noticed it before, just walked up, grabbed it, put it in their truck or something in the middle of the day. Someone also broke into our house when I was a kid in the 90s when we were at school. They stole various things, like a VHS video camera, my brother's PS1, a bicycle, and my Game Boy. They made a mess, pulling stuff out of the drawers and whatnot. I mostly remember my mum calling the police to go in and check the house to make sure no one was inside because the door was open, and when we got home, and that's when I whined as a kid that I had to clean my room, even though it was some arsehole burglar who made the mess. I like that. I recall standing outside by the car waiting for the police to get there, worried someone might be in our house. Man, that's just fucking horrible, isn't it? Our next door neighbor, who was a lanky man in his 70s, later said he had seen the guy leaving with a sports bag riding the bike, and he tried to stop him. My dad was convinced it was a cable TV worker. This worker had just come to our house a few days prior to do the work, or someone related, because they knew we wouldn't be home and they saw things in the house. To this day, he avoids letting any workers over because he thinks they'll lead to it again. Oh, also, I remember a pair of socks were laying on the floor in the front walkway. The policeman said likely said that this guy used socks over his hands to prevent leaving fingerprints. Wow, I have never heard of that sock thing. There you go, a little tip for your theft there, your thievery endeavors, guys. That's crazy. Yeah, that podcast that accidentally made it into the episode of Guild Wars 3 Daily the other day. The old XFM radio shows. In one of those episodes, Carl Pilkington is being really paranoid about the workers that were around his house fixing his boiler or something. And he was talking about how he hid all the jewelry and then he realized they might have been listening to him on the radio talking shit about them, which was very, very, very funny. It's a very good bit. And Ricky advises them to piss in the laundry basket or something. But yeah, I don't know. I guess people are insecure about this. They were making out Carl was insecure because he's Mancunian and there's more of it that goes on up north or something, which I'm sure is not true. And I want to be clear that I do not live in the south. All right, don't shoot the messenger. That's just what I heard on the radio show. He certainly hated Liverpudlians as a Mancunian. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty tragic, man. Here we go. RPG Crash, who, can I just remind you all, donated $50 earlier. 50 Aussie dollars. Thank you, RPG Crash. He's got a story as well. We were robbed at my grandmother's place. They went in and they took so much random stuff. The one I cared about at the time was the Game Boy Advance getting nicked. I was like 10. But they left a trail from my grandmother's house away from it of shit they stole, realized they didn't want, and just dropped on the ground. Like a tin with toiletries inside. She was finding stuff years later that she thought she had, but turns out it was stolen years prior without her realizing. Listen to that. Look, you want to think about the mindset of someone who doesn't give a fuck. They do not give a... If they're at the point that they're breaking into people's houses, they do not give a fuck. Just wander around, throw it on the floor. This isn't good enough. Like, how little do you have to care about that's an actual human being whose shit you just took, and the stress and the fucking nightmare it takes people to just find all that shit again. But no, they're just throwing it around, you know, picture frames shattering. That's awful. What a story, man. That's crazy. Here's Tirak talking about leveling in Guild Wars 3. I think that's it for the IRL theft anecdotes, guys, that I've platformed, which, believe me, is only a little bit. Anyway, whoever is saying leveling isn't going to work in modern day is basically has their head in the sand about the industry over the past 7 years. This is quite interesting because Tirak's going to go on to give us a comment here talking about leveling as though it's a modern thing when really it was the foundation of MMOs, right? But hey, he says, in the last 7 years, you've had your head in the sand. This is what foolish devs pushed for a decade at Blizzard. You think you do, but you don't. And then the classic WoW completely proved them wrong. The experience of leveling from 1 to 60... Actually, Blizzard made that quote talking about like all the weird, broken, anachronistic shit about the client that would need to be fixed to give you a good experience, which they did fix with WoW, classic WoW. But anyway... The experience of leveling from 1 to 60 in Classic is more the game than the end game is. The 1 to 40 range is by itself has kept most people coming back to Classic WoW for years. It's not that people don't want to level, it's that early Guild Wars 2 and early 14 just suck ass. When it's done well, like Classic WoW or pre-searing, it's as addictive and immersive as crack. Turtle WoW needing to be assassinated by Blizzard further proved... What was that? A fan... Classic WoW project? Is that? Proved this because it was absolutely the best version of the game. Because they kept expanding new zones and content for the leveling experience. Instead of just the same boring loot treadmill at the end game. Like Blizzard does. Side question, are you a VR chat player? I feel like you are. No, I'm not, honestly. I think it would weird me out very much. And I wouldn't really know what to do in there. However, I will say I have a penguin skin ready to go. I only use the furry rooms. No, I love it. I love everything you said there. I love the leveling. I'll give you guys a little story. Another MMO that I adore. As I mentioned to you all, I love fucking grinding for... vertical progression. I love it. And I'm not asking that from Guild Wars. I'm not, I promise. But I know in my heart I really like that in games. And another MMO I played when I was younger was Maple Story. I played that free to play. This was one of the things I used to talk to Matt about a lot. Because Matt was hardcore into that game. And Matt spent a lot of money on that game. And we had a lot of discussions on Visual Wood about that, right? I was never hardcore into that game. I never spent any money. But I did... Like... I remember there was a patch when they like added the pirate or something. I was like playing before they were very, very, very early. And the grind was obscene in that game. The grind was fucking bonkers. But I loved it. I loved grinding for it. Anyway, so years later, I went back to it. Like 2 years ago, I was playing it with a mate. And it was awful because like... I hit like level 60 in like an hour or something. I was like hoping to like grind on Victoria Island or whatever it was called and, you know, get really excited about going to the mainland after a few months. And I was really looking forward to, you know, like I really wanted to dive into it and grind. I wanted to level slowly and like... but the game was just vomiting XP at me, and I was just flying through and skipping all this content and like not getting immersed in the zones or the music or the sound effects or the trainers or recurrently visiting cities to trade and or you know it was awful. It was just ruined with the fast leveling, and I stopped playing it. Of course, I have heard, isn't there an MS Classic coming out now? That would be a series I'd be interested in. I've heard that MS Classic is going to be a thing. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like Arenanet definitely understood that leveling is fun and they got it. That why else did they put 80 levels into Guild Wars 2? Why else did they do that? It just depends on where is their opinion now for Guild Wars 3? Do they go and how do they square that circle? How do they figure it out? Is that eternal question of like, is the entire game the end game or not? What Arenanet were trying to do with Guild Wars 2 is they were trying to say, right, leveling is fun. What's not fun is having to wait for the end to fight big bosses. So we're going to put those big bosses right there in the main story. You can fight the Shadow Behemoth immediately. You can fight a big boss in the tutorial immediately. And I think they were very successful in that. I'll happily see them do that in Guild Wars 3. Why not? Guild Wars 3 would totally work with that. But we have ultimately got caught in a lot of problems with Guild Wars 2 with the leveling and... So, I don't know. I just... this is very snobby of me. And I have no real reason to think this, but I do. I just feel like they don't really think that deeply about some of this stuff. I don't know. I'm sure I'm wrong, and I'm sure as long as it's just we haven't had any blog posts, and we haven't had any reflection from the studio on these topics for so long. We haven't had it for so long. We've just had shit like, hey, here's level 80 boosters. Just here's a boost. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I'll give you guys an anecdote. When I visited the studio once, I met a dev. And he enthusiastically shook my hand. And it was all very surreal. And it was all very weird. And everyone was so polite and so nice. And it was so wonderful, right? And this guy said, oh, you know, I've been working here for a while. This was really cool to meet you. And I said, oh, what did you do? What have you made with the game? And he was thrilled. Honestly, seriously, genuinely thrilled. Gleeful to tell me that his contribution to Guild Wars 2 was making the level 80 booster system. And I had a bit of a weird moment where I sort of thought to myself, I kind of hate that system. I kind of hate what that stands for in a lot of ways. I hate that that's the marketing elements of the game, the funding elements of the game that have now, like, tacitly said, yeah, fuck leveling. We acknowledge that it's shit. It's an inconvenience. Let's skip. Like, the core idea of that sucks. But this was the guy, this was like the boots on the ground dev that had actually implemented all the stuff. You know, like the UI that pops up and the fact that it takes you to the Silver Waste and tries to give you a quick tutorial. And he had a lot to make and a lot to work on. So, you know, we bonded over it and we chatted about it. And I said, oh yeah, it was good work and it would have been hard work. But it's just a weird moment like that, you know, where it's like, I wonder, are the decision makers still in a place where they talk about these things? We just haven't had a post about it for so long. You know, I might meet the boots on the ground dev that implemented the system, but that doesn't help us to figure out what Arenanet thinks about some of these big topics. Next, we got JP Asdera, who says, do you think there's any chance we could see Glint in Guild Wars 3? We got a good lore question here, guys. I was just replaying one of the Guild Wars 2 missions where you go to her lair, and I thought, oh, right, she was around back then. I'd be curious to see what she was up to, as she's been long one of my favorite characters, though I'd lean towards keeping dragon-related content to a minimum in Guild Wars 3. World Singer said it would be a damn shame not to include her. A compelling character, important in the setting and the lore, regardless of the time period. Yeah, I think Glint is going to be great in Guild Wars 3. I think we should just get over the fact she's a dragon. She was a dragon in Guild Wars 1, but that didn't mean that she was, you know, the entire game was about the Elder Dragons, right? And the same can be true in Guild Wars 3. You know, Guild Wars 1 had big elements of Glint in it. I think Guild Wars 2 obviously did, and there were all those cool hints in the novel about it. So let's do it again with Guild Wars 3. Let's have her be an interesting place. She's connected tightly to the Forgotten. And the Forgotten are going to be tightly connected to the gods and all. So, as far as I'm concerned, it all comes together. And for that matter, by the way, Kunavang, even if she's benevolent, Su-Won is an interesting thought. I'm not saying the entire story should revolve around these entities, but expansions that have them in them, or like, I don't know, if I was the world builder, if I were at the studio, if I was helping write that and set out a direction, I would definitely put a million story hooks in there right from the off. Intriguing, cool ideas. So I would make sure Glint has a beat, at least. You know, Infinity Ball style stuff, so that the new generation of lore enthusiasts immediately has a lot of things they're introduced to that they can have fun with. I would 100% do something with Glint. I'd maybe even give her, and I think she's got a good reason to even have a prominent role. So there you go, guys. That is the Q&A section done. It unfortunately took us 2 hours again. Why does it always take me 2 hours? I don't understand. I don't understand. I just read a comment and I try to give you the fullest answer I can give you. And I have fun doing it. And it's 2 hours every time. Right, well, let's get to the title of this video and the thumbnail of this video, the little showcase section. This comes from Cossage here. So this is that heart we started at, and these are the artifacts that unlock on the table. They're seer artifacts from the newest patch. So there's this thing here, a seared dagger called Porcel Ret. When throwing it, the user attunes, and I think this is Isgaran teaching us about them. He says, when throwing, the user attuned to this dagger was able to teleport any distant to wherever it made its mark. This is dagger 4 for a Necro, by the way. That's what Necros do as a skill. And is Garin saying this particular one will take you any distance as long as it made its mark? Is Garin mentioned a story about a seer assassin? Oh no, this isn't Isgarin talking about it. It's someone else. Ritlock, I don't know who's writing these. Isgarin mentioned a story about a seer assassin who was able to create illusory duplicates of the dagger and then zip between them to befuddle their targets in a lethal assault. So, Necro skill 4, but dropping clones as you go? Is that going to be a Guild Wars 3 skill? I don't know. This one here is the Soul Key. It's a focus. And are these going to be legendaries in next? I don't know. The owner of this focus was able to seal specific chests with shreds of their soul. Supposedly, they'd be alerted if someone tried to open them and be able to act accordingly. Likely with some form of curse, I'm told. Do you guys think that this... Okay, here's a moment. Ready? I'm going to make a prediction. A big prediction. Here we go. Big prediction. Here we go. Guild Wars 3 is going to have a gear system whereby equipment that you're wearing gives you specific skills. So we already kind of have that in Guild Wars 2, where wearing the spear gives you 5 spear skills, but I think it will be more modular now. I think it will be an individual skill from an individual weapon that you can use to supplement your 8 skill bar. It's kind of be like where Guild Wars 1 meets Guild Wars 2. And I think I think weapons will unlock skills for you, like in Guild Wars 2. But it will be like 1 skill at a time, or 2, maybe. Otherwise, the rest of it is Guild Wars 1 style, complete free to slot things however you like. And Arenanet are hinting at that system right here in VOE. There you go. That's my theory about the Guild Wars 3 combat system. Oh, our Bardy's got to go. Meeting time. Damn it. Have fun at your meeting, dude. I was hoping to end the episode before then. So yeah, that was the Soul Key. This is called Ombra Brand. This is a lamp. Ombra Brand. It's a cool name. Fairly straightforward. This lamp exposes magically hidden or shrouded objects or people within the light it casts. More importantly, its enchantment is still intact. This to me is a pretty cool artifact because it seems like anti-Massart tech. Remember the Seers were in a war against the Massart who would slip out of phase, go invisible, hide. And this might have been a cool way for the Seers to try to figure out where they were, reveal them, fight back. And it's still intact. And for Guild Wars 3, what does this mean? Anti-stealth reveal? I don't know. That's probably a bit of a reach. And here we get the big one. Here we have a Seer tablet with a poem. Who wrote this, guys? This is what the thumbnail is alluding to. Some Seer writes this. Sorry, I'm having a drink. And we're building gravitas as I do so. At the ruins I wept. At the graves I knelt. My forgotten friends, forsaken by the Shadow Keeper. I drift over the scars. The vile worm left. I know not where it sleeps. Would that it had sleep forever. As the war rages, I return every year. Magic returns. Or heals. Okay, I kind of tried to read that with weight. Failed. I don't even know if that's really a poem. It's just etched onto the tablet. What do we learn from this? This is pretty fascinating, guys. This is more talk about Zhaitan. This is obviously alluding to the big alliance and the big fight against Zhaitan, that the Seers abandoned them and got a bunch of Forgotten killed. And now this Seer is drifting over the battlefield, the scars of where the fight had occurred, this massive conflict. And the Seer is devastated by the fact that the Forgotten Friends have died. There's been lots of moments in VOE where they've talked about it. It's melancholic. It's really cool. This is like the world building at its best. I have a lot of fun. Again, all the recent expansions have a lot of great pickups like this. The vile worm left. That to me is like that's Zhaitan. And what they're saying there is they don't know where Zhaitan went to go to sleep. They don't know that it's beneath ore. And I think that this is Arenanet setting up some important pieces for the story of Guild Wars 3. What they're telling us immediately is a fundamental thing about Guild Wars 3, and that's that a lot of the ancient wiser races, the Forgotten, the Seers, the Gods even maybe, they are ignorant to the fact there's an Elder Dragon under there. Maybe some of the gods know, maybe Abaddon knows. But I think by and large, a lot of people don't know, and this is going to be one of the ways in which Guild Wars 3 gets away from the Dragon Saga and carves its own identity as its own setting. That's what I think this is. And they even specifically talk about ore there in that poem. So it's pretty good. That's a good little piece of info. Finally, there's this war horn. It's called the Scream. Supposedly, one blast from this horn would cause a severe vertigo-like effect on its intended targets. I've expressly instructed the camp not to attempt to use it for science. I like that. Oh, maybe this is old inquest notes or something, actually. Maybe that's who wrote this. But this is called the Scream. Sounds kind of like Wail of Doom again, doesn't it, right? Or Necro Warhorn. But what do you guys think? Okay, and again, going back, so that's it. That's the last thing. We're done. We're done with the episode. So I want to leave you now, guys. There you go. Look, a 2-hour episode, just like I said. 2 hours. I want to leave you all with a fun idea. Here is a genuine prediction from me. A genuine prediction. And it's very close to what someone was talking about in a previous comment. Which makes me suspicious that you might have been a dev in disguise. Imagine that unique gear can give you unique skills in Guild Wars 3. And that even extends to shit like legendaries. So there will be a legendary warhorn in Guild Wars 3 called the Scream that gives you a special skill. Something like that. I mean, that's very anti-Guild Wars in a lot of ways, but maybe I don't know. Just chew on that. I think there might be something there. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Maybe no. Maybe both. That's a quote from Little Big Adventure. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Keep the comments coming, please. And I'll see you tomorrow. Possibly, probably, most likely, for the big microtransaction chat that I want to spin into a real video. Thank you all. I hope you've enjoyed. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Actually, hold on. Let me just check the live chat for a second here. I feel awful about the live chat lately. I'm really only responding to donations. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get the episode shorter, and then there's so many comments I want to do. March says Relics I feel, was their crap attempt at equip an artifact for an additional skill. They just got lazy and made a majority of the Relics bad, or just stat boost. That's an interesting... You're very cynical, but I think you might be right, actually, with the Relics thing. Are Relics a precursor to this idea, maybe? Something like that? Mithrin says they should make it so after you equip a weapon, you get to slot skills for that weapon. You get to make combos. So it'd be like Darksiders. The Divinity games did that a lot. Baldur's Gate, a lot of Larian games have done that, haven't they? Maybe legendaries give you access to all skills of that item type. You love me? Yeah, I don't know. Look, if I was terrible about live chat today, give me some YouTube comments and I'll read them there. Thank you guys. See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, yeah. And look at the poll there. Look at the poll. It's basically 50-50. We don't know if they're going to do it. We don't know if they're going to do the personal story again. 56% say no. I think we've done some good polls lately, guys, because we've really shown some of these topics we're very split on. We don't really know the answer. All right, seriously, I'm out.